Life was not glamorous. This was the seed that would eventually grow into a steel empire. Steel was expensive and difficult to produce. This dark chapter stained his reputation. His name became synonymous not just with steel, but with libraries, education, and philanthropy. In the mid-19th century, America was a land of opportunity, but also of uncertainty. The country was still finding its place in the world, torn between rapid industrial growth and the struggles of millions of immigrants trying to carve out a future. From this chaotic backdrop emerged one of history's most fascinating figures, Andrew Carnegie, a man born into poverty who rose to become the Steel King of America, and later one of the greatest philanthropists the world has ever seen. His story is not only about wealth, but also about discipline, vision, and habits that defined a life of power. Andrew Carnegie was born in 1835 in Dunfermline, Scotland, into a poor weaving family. His father was a handloom weaver, but the Industrial Revolution had destroyed traditional weaving. With no future left in Scotland, his family immigrated to the United States when Andrew was only 13. They settled in Allegheny, Pennsylvania, near Pittsburgh. Life was not glamorous. Young Andrew's first job was working in a cotton factory as a bobbin boy, changing spools of thread for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. He earned just $1.20 per week. But Carnegie's mind was restless, his ambition unshakable. He borrowed books from a wealthy local man's library and taught himself through endless nights of reading. Carnegie's real journey began when he found work as a telegraph messenger boy. In those days, telegraphy was the cutting-edge technology, connecting people and businesses across the country. Carnegie quickly mastered the skill of interpreting messages by ear, becoming so fast that he was soon promoted. His talent didn't go unnoticed. He was hired by the Pennsylvania Railroad Company, one of the most powerful institutions of its time. There, he absorbed everything he could about business, management, and investment. By his early 20s, he was already making smart investments in railroad companies, bridges, and ironworks. This was the seed that would eventually grow into a steel empire. What set Carnegie apart was not just opportunity, it was his personal discipline and daily habits. Carnegie believed in efficiency, time management, and the compounding power of small, consistent routines. He often said, "The man who acquires the ability to take full possession of his own mind may take possession of anything else to which he is justly entitled." His mornings were structured, his focus razor-sharp. Unlike many wealthy men of his age who flaunted luxury, Carnegie lived with simplicity and restraint in his early years, saving and reinvesting nearly everything he earned. But Carnegie's biggest breakthrough came with his recognition of steel's future. In the mid-1800s, steel was expensive and difficult to produce. But with the invention of the Bessemer process, mass production became possible. Carnegie seized on this opportunity, building vast steel mills that could outproduce anyone else. Steel became the backbone of the American Industrial Revolution, used in railroads, bridges, ships, and skyscrapers. Carnegie Steel grew into the largest steel company in the world, making Carnegie one of the richest men alive. Yet behind this empire was a set of personal routines that shaped his destiny. Carnegie was a voracious reader, devouring books on science, history, and philosophy. He surrounded himself with knowledge, believing that education was the true key to success. He also believed in the power of delegation. "The secret of my success," he once said, "is the ability to surround myself with people who are smarter than I am." Carnegie would hire brilliant managers, trust them to run his operations, and focus his energy on the bigger picture. Health was also part of his daily discipline. Unlike many industrial tycoons who burned out young, Carnegie understood the importance of balance. He was known for taking long daily walks, enjoying time outdoors, and later in life, golf became his favorite pastime. He lived to the age of 83, at a time when the average life expectancy was much lower. His attention to both mind and body helped him sustain his energy through decades of intense work. But Carnegie was not without controversy. His business practices were ruthless, and many accused him of crushing competition and exploiting workers. The infamous Homestead Strike of 1892 at one of Carnegie's steel plants turned violent, leaving several dead. This dark chapter stained his reputation, showing the harsh realities of unrestrained capitalism. To many, Carnegie symbolized both the promise and the peril of the Gilded Age, where fortunes were built, but often at great human cost. Perhaps what redeems Carnegie's story is how he chose to use his wealth in later life. After selling Carnegie Steel to J.P. Morgan in 1901 for $480 million, a staggering sum that made Carnegie one of the richest men in history, he dedicated the rest of his life to giving away his fortune. He built over 2,500 public libraries across the world, funded universities, supported scientific research, and established trusts that still operate today. His philosophy was captured in his famous essay, The Gospel of Wealth, in which he wrote that the man who dies rich dies disgraced. To Carnegie, wealth was not for hoarding, but for uplifting society. By the time of his death in 1919, Carnegie had given away more than 90% of his fortune. His name became synonymous not just with steel, but with libraries, education, and philanthropy. Few men in history have left behind such a dual legacy of ruthless industry on one hand and boundless generosity on the other. And so, Andrew Carnegie's life remains a lesson in contrasts, from rags to riches, from ruthless industrialist to generous benefactor. He proved that habits of discipline, learning, and vision can build empires, but he also showed that the true measure of wealth is not in what you keep, but in what you give back to the world. From a poor boy with nothing but dreams to the Steel King who reshaped America's skyline, Andrew Carnegie's wealth was vast, but his legacy was even greater. Because in the end, he proved that fortune is not measured by what you keep, but by what you give away. This is Wealth Untold, and tomorrow we'll turn another page in the hidden history of fortunes, where greed, power, and ambition built empires